Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Pastor Lavelle Jennings here again from the Gazebo Talk. And I'm here in Chase, Michigan with Mrs. Cathy Kearns. We worked together for a long time in the past, and we've been longtime friends. And she's going to give us some history on the way it was back in her day. There are some different cultures and races in our lives, and we want to make sure that we know that God has brought people together. And around this area here, we want to let you know there's a lot of love and a lot of togetherness, and that's what I'm showing you right now. No matter what it was like in the past, where we came from is and where we are right now is the most important thing. So I thank God for Cathy Kearns to be here with me today to give us some history and answer some questions. And in a few minutes, I'll allow Cathy Kearns to introduce herself, and we're going to get some information. But God bless you. And I have Cathy Kearns here, and Cathy, I want you to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Cathy Kearns.
Okay.
I live here in Chase on a farm. I live outside of Chase a little bit on a farm.
Okay, so you are a farm person. How long have you been doing farm work?
Well, I grew up on a farm
Okay.
over by Reed City, and then I married a farmer. So basically all my life, I have always lived on a farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been married, Cathy?
52 years.
52 years.
52 years.
Cathy, do you remember when we first met? Now, I believe when I started working at the sheriff's department, that's when you met me. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I had been working at the jail, and I think you were hired to replace me. I believe that's why you were there.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
And when I got assigned to what was then the TRV, the Technical Rule Violation Center,
Okay.
that opened in, when did that open?
In the
91?
91, 92, yeah.
Yeah, October of 91.
Okay.
I got sent up there, and they hired you to take my spot at the jail.
Oh, okay. All right. See, that's a little history that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So how long have you worked at the jail then? And what was your total years working there?
Oh, my. I started in, I don't know, I was before Heidi was born, and she was born in 83.
Okay.
I started actually in the posse, which is a funny story. But anyway, I started in the posse, and they kept calling me to come and work in the jail, because at that time the law dictated that if you had a female inmate, you had to have a female officer.
Really? What year was it about? You said the law dictated. So what was those? Was that in the 90s?
No,
80s?
80s.
Okay.
Because Heidi was born in 83.
Okay. And that's your daughter, one of your daughters?
That's
okay.
my youngest daughter.
Okay.
And I was already there doing, I don't know if you want to call it reserve or part-time, whatever it was.
Okay.
And they would call me whenever, because they only had maybe two female officers. And they quite often were dispatched, and you can't do a full 24-hour shift with only two female officers.
Wow, didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you could if they were working 12 hours a day every day, but that didn't work.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started there.
Well, okay, let's go back on your history, Cathy. How long have you lived around this area? And I know that the jail was in Baldwin.
Right.
But you were actually born in, where were you born at?
I was born in Reed City.
In Reed City.
Right.
Okay. So you were born in Reed City, and you were back, you might say, what, back in the, is that the 40s or the 30s? Well, because
I was born in 1950.
in the 50s. All right. So
Right.
again, so I'm off by 20 years maybe.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So you was born back then. How was it? And so Reed City, and let me describe to you. Reed City is 20 miles, roughly 15 to 20 miles from Baldwin. Okay.
Correct.
And so you were born in that area around this time, and you didn't stay in Reed City though, but you eventually moved to here, Chase, which is in between.
I moved here when I married Alan.
Okay.
When I married Alan Kearns, and this is where he was from.
Okay.
And so this is, but my family home was only was halfway between here and Reed City on
Okay.
a farm.
How was the racial? I mean, meaning blacks, whites. Was it a lot of tension back when you grew up? Did you
Not really.
know that? Okay, this was in the 50s. So,
This is in the 50s.
okay,
I started out going to country school called Oliver's.
okay. And that was in Reed City?
No, it's Reed City School District.
Okay, okay,
But it was actually on Deer Lake Road
okay.
in Lake County. And I went there kindergarten, first and second grade, walked to school.
Wow.
And it is, by the way, uphill both ways.
Okay.
Because if you go up a hill and down to get to the school, you have
Yes.
to go up a hill and down to get home. So you go to school uphill both ways.
And that was on Deer Lake Road?
That was on Deer Lake
Where was
Road.
that school? Where's that school now?
Right on the corner of Deer Lake and 10 down here.
Is it still there?
It's still there, but it's
Wow.
no longer a school.
That's
it's a home.
amazing. They didn't tear it down. Okay, it's a home now.
It's a home
Okay,
now.
I'm sorry, but go ahead, explain.
Little red brick schoolhouse is what it
That
was.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was, for the time that I was there,
Yes.
it was almost half black, half white.
In that school on Deer Lake
In
Road?
that school on Deer Lake Road, yes.
That's amazing.
Because a mile away, still in the Oliver School District, was what was called the County Poor Farm or County Poorhouse.
Okay.
And all this financial assistance that people get now did not exist then
Okay.
in the 50s. And so, excuse me, so if people didn't have enough money to have their own home,
Okay.
to pay the rent or whatever, the families would go to the poor farm, the poorhouse.
And it was called, that's what it was called?
That's what it was called.
Wow.
I don't know what the official
Yeah,
name
yeah,
was,
yeah.
but that was what the community called it.
Okay.
And it was a huge house. I think it had like 3 floors,
Okay.
and it had something, there were small rooms, but it had something like 30 rooms.
Wow.
So that several families could actually, you could like maybe have a family on each floor.
Okay.
Although it didn't have a kitchen on each floor.
Okay.
I don't even know if it had a bathroom inside,
Okay.
because outside bathrooms were quite common back then.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Like outhouses?
Outhouse.
Oh, and she's talking in the 50s now. I don't know anything about that.
No, in the 50s, in the early 50s.
Okay. All right.
I don't know when we got our indoor bathroom. I was very young, maybe 4 or 5 years old, when
So-
we went from the outhouse to the indoor bathroom.
Okay.
Dad built a bathroom in our house.
Okay. So,
I-
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so I don't know what they had at the Poor Farmers Farm.
You didn't go in there much. Did you?
No, I
you just
never
knew
went.
of it. You never went in there.
No, my brothers did, I think.
Okay.
Because there were kids closer to their age.
Okay.
But most of the families that were there were black.
Okay.
And they walked to school too.
It was more than 3, you would say? More than 3 black families, you think? Or?
That went in and out of there?
That was there.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Maybe
All right.
not all at the same time, but there was.
Okay, I see what you mean. So, yeah, different times.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there were multiple families there even at the same time because the house was big enough.
Okay.
And my home, my parents' house was about a mile from the school. We lived on that end of Deer Lake. The school was on this end.
Wow. Okay.
And the poor farm was on Hawkins Road,
Mm-hmm.
so they walked about a mile to school too.
Okay.
Even though I don't really know if they walked across the fields. They might have,
Okay.
or they might have walked down. I doubt that they came down the highway, but they might have. But they walked to school.
Let me say this for the viewers. Hawkins Road is not that far from Baldwin, too. Now, this is Chase, and then you got Hawkins Road, if I'm correct, going
Right.
towards Baldwin.
No, Hawkins Road is, well,
Yeah, it actually is, because this is, no,
closer.
you're right.
it's
All right.
Hawkins Road is one. First there's Sadler, and then there's Hawkins.
Yep,
Hawkins is
I
2
remember
miles.
now. I was going the wrong way.
Yeah,
So,
you
okay,
went
so
wrong.
we're in between Reed City, but this, I would say this is like 10 to 15 miles from Baldwin.
Yeah,
Okay,
approximately.
and then you got another 3 or 4 or 5 miles to Reed City approximately. So this is all, coming, and I'm hoping we're going to get to maybe some closeness to Baldwin too. But go ahead. So the family, you got a poor farm. That's what most of the black family was, and
yeah.
they walked to the Oliver School.
And they walked to Oliver School.
All right,
just
and
like we did.
Just like you did, and you didn't really worry. Was it any knowledge on your part of?
They were always there. I didn't think anything of it.
Wow.
I didn't, and I don't think anybody did.
Okay.
We all played together. We all were it was just a one-room country school, so we were all in the same school.
That's amazing. Okay.
To my knowledge, they were not forced to the back of the room.
Okay. All right.
In fact, Ben, who was a boy that was in my grade, sat
Okay.
right across from me.
Okay.
So it wasn't like that at all. It was just a very quiet country life.
No, I'm going to mention this story because it's important for him. There was one black gentleman or young man that was he in your class? I think he's a tall guy. He's a basketball player.
Oh, Paul.
Okay, and his name was Paul. But you mentioned another young black man or black.
Well,
kid.
Paul had a younger brother, Dennis.
Okay.
And they both lived there. They started out in the poor farm, but I don't think it might not have been the poor farm anymore. I think their dad might have bought it or was renting.
Okay.
Because it ceased being the poor farm somewhere along there.
Wow. Okay.
And it was a poor farm all through my grade school. But Paul and Dennis, their family moved in when I was in high school. And we would pick them up on the bus.
So they actually probably had some money maybe if they bought this. Back then.
I think they had a little money. Their
Okay.
dad, I believe, was a carpenter.
Okay.
And their mom worked at Everett Products.
Okay. Every product was back then too.
Yeah,
in
oh,
the
yeah.
50s. Okay.
And their dad bought a house on the highway, and we're all thinking, why did he buy that? Because it was in such bad shape. But
Yes.
he tore it down to the studs and built a whole beautiful new home there. So
That's amazing.
then Paul and Dennis moved over there onto the highway.
Okay. Any connection with the Baldwin school areas, or you ever any games you had to play? Any kind of contact with the Baldwin area?
When I was in grade school, there was. Because this was a country school, and a man named, I think his name was Mr. Moothart.
Okay.
Strange name. But I believe he was the county superintendent of schools or something like that. And he was constantly having contests, and there were spelling contests and poetry contests. You had to get up and do something. And that was all the schools in Lake County, and so there was some interaction with the Baldwin children at that time.
So Cathy, now, was there some incident where somebody told you that the world wouldn't, or that even though you were good with just people being people, but everybody didn't feel that way, did they?
No,
Okay.
no, I guess not, anyway.
Okay, what do you think?
Well, Paul and I would sit together on the bus.
And this was one of the black families?
This was from the black family.
Okay.
And Paul was tall and handsome, and he was very, he was a good basketball, he was very popular in school. We only had, in the Reed City School, high school, this is high school.
Okay.
By the time I went to high school, we only had those two black boys.
Okay.
Paul and Dennis.
Paul and Dennis.
And Dennis was the younger brother. And Paul was my age, or approximately my age. And we would pick him up on the bus.
Okay.
And quite often
Same
Paul
bus?
Same bus. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. And quite often Paul would sit with me. Nobody said it. Nobody minded.
Okay.
That was it was accepted.
Okay.
And so Paul is like, he's becoming very popular in school because
Okay.
he was a very nice young man. And he asked me if I would come to watch him play basketball because he was a
Okay.
basketball
He was a
star.
basketball player. Okay.
And he was a star. He was a good player.
Okay.
And so I said, yes, I'd like to.
Okay.
But I didn't drive, and Paul couldn't, I don't know if Paul drove or not, but he couldn't pick me up because he had to be at basketball practice.
That's true. Okay.
And so then I asked one of my brothers
Okay.
if they would drop me off at the high school.
Because
So
they were able to drive.
Yes.
Okay.
And I asked Rob if he would drop me off at the high school so I could watch Paul play.
Okay.
And he's the one that said, I don't know that that's a good idea.
He
And
said
I-
it wasn't a good idea
Right.
to his sister. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And I said, why not? And I said, we're friends. And he said, yes, I'm friends too. But he said, the world won't look at it that way. And there might, if you start dating Paul,
yes.
in other words, he said, if you go to watch Paul play basketball, they're going to assume that you and Paul are dating.
Yes.
And even though Paul was accepted and well-liked and very popular, he was not dating
Yes.
a white girl.
Yes, yes.
And so Rob said, I don't know that that's a good idea.